What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Chart Request Live. My name's Patrick Dunawilla. I'm the editor of the Chart Report. Joining me today, we got Jason Pers. Jason, how we doing?
Hey guys, doing good today, man. Last minute got on here, excited to chat with you about some charts. I'm always excited to say, hey, do you want to be on Chart Request Live today? Absolutely. So let's do this.
There we go. There we go. I like the attitude. So what do you think of the market here? Happy Bitcoin 100K, right?
It's funny. It kind of makes this every single time Bitcoin passes these big psychological levels like 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. It makes this weird like pennant pattern and then it breaks out. I posted that to our group in Slack the other day and also on Twitter. Like it makes the same pattern over and over again. It was funny. I went to bed and woke up and it was over 100K and I was like, oh, that's kind of funny, but
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's an interesting market, and that's the one thing to continue to look out for. It's an interesting market. There are some headwinds out there. There are some things that look really good that we want to stay long. There's some things that we want to get out of. So I really like the shape of the market right now. I think there's a lot of trading opportunities.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I know exactly the pennant you're referring to in Bitcoin. And it did some kind of fake outs a little bit, but it kind of looks like it's resolving lower. I think might give a chance to accumulate around like 99K or 100K, might
Yeah,
revisit that level again. That would be completely normal. I mean, levels not seen since yesterday, right?
yes, and that's how it usually goes. So I think there's an interesting setup here for people who are looking at it as traders. If you're looking at it as a trader, you would go, okay, well, like you said, you could pull back to those levels, you could accumulate a little bit more. But I do think now that we're past 100K and that's major psychological resistance, we
Yeah.
could certainly run up to 110 pretty easily, 120 probably even easier. It's Bitcoin, so it's the most volatile asset in history. So you have to understand that this thing, if it's going to break that psychological level, it'll probably go much further than the psychological level. As long as we see a close above here, I like to see
Yeah.
weekly close above 100. I'd be pretty bullish on it.
What's interesting to me with that is just, if you look at the 161.8 fib and you draw it on a closing basis and an intraday basis, the two come in at 99K and 102K. So it's right sandwiched between that level. So it's an important level for a number of reasons. Um, and I think, we could either consolidate here, correct here, or just rip right on through to the next one, which is significantly higher. So it'll be an interesting few weeks here.
What is the next one? Is it 150? It's pretty
That's a
high, isn't
great question.
it? I know it's pretty high up there, and it's something for our viewers to look out for. So
Right.
I think it's much higher. It's going to be an interesting move if it hits there.
Yeah, it looks like 150 around there.
Yeah,
Another key psychological level, kind of just moving on to the next one, right?
but isn't it interesting that a lot of the fibs are hitting these major psychological levels? 100K was one,
Yeah,
150 was another. So it's really interesting that the fibs are matching up with that. It's going to be interesting to see where this one ends up for sure.
totally, totally. Well, I see we got one of our requests here, base, pulled up on the screen. When it came in, it's Couchbase. I thought our one of our viewers was joking around and having us look at Coinbase, but Couchbase is a real thing. Now it's under a billion, so we don't normally look at this, but we figure why not, right?
I'm excited about it just because I've never heard of it. For me, it's something as well. And just so you guys know, I'm not very good at individual stocks generally. Generally, I don't know the names of most of the small individual name stocks. I'm a macro trader. I know you could ask me any ETF, any indice all over the world, but if you're talking about an individual stock, especially one name base, I have no idea. So,
If we're
you know.
talking soybean futures, though, you know what you're
Oh
talking
yeah,
about.
if you want to talk about soybean futures, commodities, whatever, I'm your guy. But if we're talking about base, couch base, I have no idea. So what is this stock, dude? Can our
So
viewers hit us up too? Leave something in the chat. Let us know what this thing is.
yeah, I'm looking at it now. Couchbase provides cloud database platform for enterprise applications in the United States and internationally. Its database works in multiple configurations, ranging from cloud to multiple hybrid cloud to premise environment. It's a cloud. Sounds like a cloud stock.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
And I'm on a weekly chart, so is this thing much longer than that? Nope, that's it.
Yeah.
So that's all the data we have for this
That's-
one.
oh, and look at that. Came public in 2020. What a surprise.
Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting one. And that's when a lot of those came out. What is it? Snowflake actually starting to look okay these days.
Yeah.
But a lot of those came out, you're right, around the same time.
Yeah, real nice fail breakdown in the Snowflake. So what do you think?
I have no idea. It's a messy, ugly chart. If we go back just to daily, this is probably why people get excited about it. And I'll just give my 2 cents on this. You see this thing in an uptrend, you see this big pullback, and you think maybe there's a higher low. Look, I wouldn't want to buy something like this. I wouldn't just jump in and go, okay, this is a good idea to try to catch this falling knife. I would say, hey, wait for it to show some strength. Wait for it to move higher. I'd rather buy breakouts than trying to buy things on dips. And once again, it's a hard thing to do as a trader because psychologically we go to grocery stores. In grocery store, you don't ask for what's the most expensive banana. You buy the cheapest banana that, if you're organic, the cheapest organic or whatever, or a brand you like. In trading, it's just different. You want to buy highs and sell higher. The momentum behind it usually creates interest in this product, and then it sells higher, and then you can get out at a higher price. Most things that are going lower, there's a reason it's going lower. I don't know what happened to Base. I don't know if it's a bad stock or had a bad earnings, what exactly it is, but I would say something bad happened, and you probably don't want to touch it just yet.
Yeah, it sounds like the discount version of Coinbase. But let's take a step back and zoom out a little bit and look at microcaps, IWC. This one's from Nick. Yeah, looking at what do you think of IWC? I mean, now that you have the Russell working, wouldn't it make sense to see the microcaps?
I think so. For me, I definitely always look at the micro caps. There's a reason why it's even named on my list. It's one of the things I go through every day. And if I'm just looking at the micro cap ETF, I'd say, yeah, this is something that you want to be interested in. It coiled up nicely before the election. It broke out and continued to move higher. That's a band squeeze breakout. Usually that creates a nice rally. So what that basically means is low volatility creates high volatility, and vice versa. High volatility creates low volatility. So if you have low volatility and then you break out to the upside, usually that trend is sustainable. So I'm looking at that going, IWC, I think 144 and 49 is an easy target. But at the same time, this thing looks like it's trending. The market looks like it's broadening out. This looks like an area I'd want to be long for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it basically just looks like where the Russell was this summer or so, right? Like it's kind of like it's just lagging behind the Russell, maybe 3-4 months, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best way to put it. It looks like the Russell did. You want to be long it. I think it's a good thing to be long. And once again, if you look at commodity cycles generally, when there's a little bit of inflation, and we're starting to see inflation tick up in our models again. As we're seeing inflation move up, usually at the beginning of those cycles, you see a big move in the microcap space. You saw it in 2000 before the big commodity cycle that we saw in the 2000s. You saw it in 2020, as you can see that huge uptrend that happened at late 2020 through 2021. So I think this is a good time to be long some microcaps.
Yeah, it makes total sense, I think. Let's go on to Unity Software, kind of sticking with that software theme. Man, tech has had just such a nice comeback this week.
What's the ticker?
U.
See, that's how out of things I am when it comes to individual
That's all right. That's all right. You know what you know.
Unity Software. Wow. So we have a higher low. It doesn't look that bad.
To me, it looks like if it can reclaim those former lows, that's a fail breaky. And then you're already seeing it trying to break that downtrend,
I like this. And you know what? You can even buy it here. Like, let's say you're a person, you want to buy this thing here.
There you go. I like how you're thinking.
Yeah, 22.98, 22.88. Take a stab at it. Nothing wrong with that. Once again, it's a tight risk. Get out under 22.88. Buy right here. Try to sail it up to 42. For me, I really rather use a trailing stop on something like this. This thing looks like it could really take off. But once again, if you're a target trader, target 42. If not, use a trailing stop. It looks like a general volatility will probably be around 20%, not even, about 15%. So close trailing stop, or just get out under 22.88. It's an easy trade here. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at least you have a really clear out point, right? And that's the important thing. Let's move on to RNA, a little bit of biotech for you.
Ooh, haven't seen that one in a while.
This one's from Kit. She says, he or she says, not a top or top.
That is hard to say. And once again, we draw some lines on here.
Now, why does this chart remind me of the 10-year?
It does, right? Like the curl over really looks like the 10-year.
Yeah, like a zoomed out longer term version of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is a weekly chart. And just looking at it right here, we are seeing, we would say this is a breakdown. You wouldn't want to buy, but for me, there's a couple things to look for. One thing that would be a very bullish signal on this is if we got back over 39.73. If we get back over that level, that's telling me it's a false breakdown signal. False breakdown signals are very powerful signals. So if you get back up above 39.73, I would definitely trade this thing. I would definitely buy it for another swing higher. But if it stays below this level, I just wouldn't touch it. I think that's a very simple way to look at it. Just don't touch it for now. Gets above that level, I'd buy it. And I think it's a great trade. It's a great thing that somebody brought up because that could be a really strong trade going forward.
Yeah. We got a question from Mark here about XLY versus SPY. So consumer discretionary on a relative basis.
Ooh, I never do the ratio charts on here. Equal sign. I always use my stock chart.
If you want to skip it, we can.
I want to know. You know what? We'll come back to it. I'll look up how to do it on Trends.
All good. Why don't we look at Lulu? So I think Lulu they definitely have earnings this week. I don't know if it's out yet or. Okay, it's after the close today.
So Lulu, man, it's rallying hard off of those lows. If we look a little bit closer, it might actually look cleaner than it looks there. Yeah. So if we're rallying off of these lows here, it could be a possibility to buy. Once again, if you look at it long term, you would say this is a possible reversal bottom.
Yeah, and if you look at the candles, that level there, let me pull it up. Hold up. That like what 230, 265-ish level. That was a pretty clear level, and when we reclaimed that was kind of like the lower end of that range there. So you kind of coming off a failed breakdown.
No, that's really interesting chart. And I think the failed breakdown is really nice, a nice signal to look at because it's a very long-term one. Reclaiming 265 is good. Also right here, you kind of have a flag pattern. Especially when you look at it on a line chart, meaning closes. So if you look at it closing wise, you're seeing this pennant pattern here. And as long as you're seeing this pennant pattern, and we're breaking out above that on earnings, it's not a bad sign. So
and you're looking at a weekly chart there, so that pennant might look small, but that's a few weeks, right?
Yeah, that's a few weeks. Basically going from October to mid-November. So you got a few weeks in there, possible move higher. I like it. It's a good continuation pattern. The way you would measure that is basically measuring the move that just happened before it and putting it on top of the move here. So that move would probably target around 380 to 400, somewhere around 380 to 400. Good move, good trade.
Yeah, you got the retail sector working again. It'll be interesting tonight.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, XRT. Looking at the retail.
Let's take a look at that.
Yeah, looking at the retail sector, man, that's something that we haven't looked at in a while. We can say that much. We haven't looked
Yeah,
at
it
the
seems
retail.
like it was just sitting around doing nothing for the longest time, and then in like 1 or 2 weeks, it just made like retraced most of its decline there, or at least
Yeah,
made a
so
really nice move.
look at that chart. That's it's just went sideways for so long. Let's measure that. Transpider has very ugly arrows. You gotta make them small, but then it makes all your lines very small. But if we look at that, so 9 months and 4 weeks, 9 months and 4 weeks of doing basically nothing.
Of just yeah,
Yeah. So that's interesting. So now that's breaking out at the same time as Lulu's breaking out. Lulu probably has, if you did a relative chart XRT to Lulu, you would see that Lulu has relative strength to it. Lulu's probably a good trade here.
yeah. I don't hate it. Don't hate it at all. Um, let's hit the chat here. Let's start with Palantir. This one's from Frank. Looks like he's in around 47 and a half,
I don't
and
even
he's
remember
looking for targets.
what's the ticker.
Palantir, PLTR.
Man, I've fallen off with the ticker symbols.
That's
All
all
right.
right.
Here we go. So yeah, and this was another one that was a technology company that, was very hot for a long time and, didn't go anywhere. Everybody kind of got beat up from it. And then finally it did go somewhere. It made a big move. Once again, it's that time frame, 2020, 2021. A lot of these companies, cybersecurity, cloud type of companies coming out at that point. Saw a nice rally. Everybody got really excited about it. But people weren't excited about it anymore. And once everybody stopped talking about it, it started moving in an uptrend. And this thing looks pretty parabolic at the moment. I wouldn't just want to buy into here, but I would say, if you're in a strong uptrend, buying pullbacks isn't a bad thing to do in a strong uptrend.
Yeah. I mean, this has been one of those that if you didn't get in, it's been hard to get in. Uh, but so, if you fib it out here, the 161.8 comes in right around 69.70. So right around where we are now. So, if we can decisively break this, I don't know if you can consider this a decisive breakout yet. It's kind of, we'll see how it closes the week. I'd rather defer to that. But if it's above 70, looks like 108's the next shot. But this thing, I could see it going there too.
It looks like a rocket ship. I mean, it looks like a rocket ship. I wouldn't. I saw somebody put out something the other day about shorting this, and I was like, this isn't something you'd want to short. This is certainly not something you want to short. If you're
Maybe
long,
one day.
yeah, if you're long, you want to definitely hang on for the ride. But once again, when these new companies come out, we don't really know. I mean, if you go back to what's his name, William O'Neill. William O'Neill used to talk about IPOs, and once a stock is an IPO, it goes public. You want to see it break over that old high that happened during the IPO. So basically getting up and over 36. So this thing closes above 36, 37, then it's just taking off. So really, I don't think I think there's still some upside here to go if we just look at the old school William O'Neill idea. So if you're long,
it has momentum behind it too, right?
yes. So if you're long, I'd just stay long. And if you're looking for new positions, I'd buy positions on pullbacks to, support zones, pullbacks to moving average support. However you want to look at it and however you trade, it would be the best way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if he's in at 47 and a half, it makes some sense to take some profits here and leave some on to ride, protect the rest. Either stop at break even or stop above the former highs there. But let's move on to something more in your wheelhouse, NFE. This one's from Eric. He says, NFE for Jason, New Fortress Energy.
All right. So I'm seeing, and something we should talk about here is we're seeing a lot of these things bottoming. And so as all these things are bottoming, I want to caution people. Like, I know this looks exciting. It looks like it is the trade of the century. You're catching the best deal here. And you do get this kind of false breakdown signal, and it could be a buy. I'm not saying that it's a bad trade. I am saying that if you are going to look at something like this, you want to be very careful here. You could buy for what I do in positions that have long-term false breakdown signals, because we do have a false breakdown model very similar to this, is I would take a very small position, half position. So basically we'd get back over that 870 level, I would take a half position. And then if it came down to, let's say, 870 again, and it held that and then reversed higher, got above a 10-day moving average or something like that, I would then add more to that position. But going full on when a position's coming right off of a bottom is very hard to do. And you could get the trade right. This might, who knows? This could be the one that goes straight up to 50. I don't know. That's always a possibility. But you don't want to always take the trade that's the low probability trade. And this is kind of a low probability trade, but it does look really good. It is a really good looking chart. I like that false breakdown bottom. I like the idea of being in energy here. This company specifically, I'm split on. It has some upside if you just look at it fundamentally, but it also has some things wrong with it if you look at it fundamentally. So I would rather look at things that are in uptrends, or wait for this thing to really flag sideways and then buy the next breakout.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Bottoming is usually a process, so it's letting it kind of unfold and prove to you over time and adding to it. That makes sense.
Bottoms are messy.
Bottoms are messy.
Bottoms are messy. Have a baby. It'll show you that. It's a secret to trading. Have a baby. It'll teach you about bottoms.
There you go. You want to stick on commodities? Let's look at coffee futures.
Ooh, all right.
From Mark.
AT. So we got coffee. Sorry, I was trying to illustrate a point the other day when we were live, but
No, you're good.
yeah. So basically the point was, if you look at the bottom, no, everybody's talking about inflation now and how it's dead. And if you look at certain assets like coffee or a lot of the softs, especially the ones we use day after day, these things have moved in big ways. Coffee I think is up 60-70% year to date. That's 130% or 120% from a low. That happened in just last year in October. So, coffee's made a huge move, but where would this go? That's the thing that, people want to know here is what would you do today? So we've had a position for a long time. We got long after a 100-day high and then added to the position once it broke up above 2. And really, for me, it's a hang on to the trade, use very wide stop, not do much besides that. This thing has a massive base going back to the 70s. So basically, we're just breaking out of the most massive base I've ever seen in a commodity ever. This thing could certainly skyrocket higher, but also it's coffee. Coffee is one of the most volatile, hard to trade contracts in the market. Very similar to natural gas. You could wake up. The other day I woke up, our coffee position was down 6%. The next day I wake up, our coffee position is up 8%. It happens like that. So it's very similar to natural gas. Cocoa's the same way. So once again, it's for me, hang on the position if you have one. Feel free to run a trailing stop, but I wouldn't buy here. I would either wait for it to come back to these levels, around 260, 270, and then start buying. And then trade it for more upside. But really, it is really just breaking out. If you are a long-term trader, you do have the cojones to hang on to a position after it breaks out and really see where this thing's going to go and have a wide stop. It might be something that could go a lot higher. Somewhere to that $4 area is actually the targets that we're looking at the moment.
Yeah, I haven't looked at agricultural commodities in a while, but you look at DBA, that thing's hitting a 10-year high today. I mean, and just starting to break out of the ascending triangle there. I mean, these agricultural commodities aren't dead yet.
Yeah, and
to your point about inflation.
It's funny because for me, I don't look at what the Fed's telling me every day. The Fed has a lot of great information, a lot of great stuff to say, but it's all BS most of the time. What I do like to look at is the actual commodities themselves. What's the underlying commodities doing? What's coffee doing? What's sugar doing? Oil, yes, oil doesn't look good. So that's what everybody's paying attention to. Oil, gasoline, heating oil don't look good. Everybody continues to pay attention to those things. However, the rest of the complex is looking really, really good and really, really bullish for a lot of these agricultural commodities, especially in the soft space. Ags don't look nearly as good as the soft space. So if you are trading these, I would definitely continue to look at the soft space for more alpha and more upside, and stay away from energy at the moment.
Yeah, I mean,
And
the two do
stocks
look
on
very different, right? I mean, you look at like DBC, that one's kind of threatening, and it's not breaking down, but it's kind of at the lower end of its range. Just certainly not like DBA.
Yeah, if you look at DVC, it's the same thing here. We're looking, or sorry, it's the opposite. We're looking at this that
Right.
topped out in 2022 and just moved into a downtrend, and it's just been stuck sideways ever since. Really not getting above these major levels, which is 25.55. The next level is 24.04. The next level is 23.50. So we're not getting above any of those major levels. We haven't. We continue to make lower lows, lower highs. And so for me, I'm saying a lot of these energy commodities are holding these major levels. So if we look at crude oil, for example, there we go. If we look at crude oil, for example, like you are seeing, we're kind of just hanging out in these major levels, and we're not really breaking above, we're not really breaking below, we're just hanging out. For me, if we hang out in those levels and we don't really break down on crude oil, and we continue to see DBA and things move higher, I would say probably we're going to see energy follow like crude oil and gasoline at some point, just not yet. So I wouldn't take the trade today, but there's a lot of other areas in the commodity space that look really good.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. Somebody asked you, does Jason have a plan in place for tariffs? I want to keep it on the charts, but I think it's worth conversation of like how do you balance the macro narrative or the fundamentals with the chart? How do you kind of resolve the two things?
So I actually just wrote a big piece on tariffs. So for me, like very I am a very price action based trader and a systematic trader. However, I understand what first thing I ever cut my teeth on was economics. So I understand economics well. I actually like to talk about them. So once in a while on my channel, I talk about a lot of that stuff. But looking at tariffs, for me, it's not the plan in place to figure out what to do with it. It is the threat of it at the moment is enough. And thinking that I don't think Donald Trump's the guy to say things and not do them. So kind of looking at those two things, and just so everybody knows, I'm not political at all. I'm just saying the things that and how it affects the market. Tariffs affect the market in a sense of inflation. So if we basically look at tariffs when we go, okay, we're going to put tariffs on this country, all they're going to do is retaliate, put tariffs back on us. And then who pays for it? The consumers. So the consumer prices go up for consumers. You're paying a higher cost for these goods. It usually also moves into the commodities themselves. If you look at any time in history where we've had high tariffs, you usually see it show up in the commodity space. So it's only going to add to the inflation story, but I think the inflation story is already starting to show its legs as well. So for tariffs, I just think it's something for everybody to keep an eye on. We talk about this a lot on my channel. We have a weekly show called the Commodity Report where we're just talking about this. So if you guys want to get more into that, so we don't get too into the weeds on tariffs on here, feel free to jump onto that show or follow me and we'll talk about it.
Well, let's hit the charts because we still got some tickers to hit here. But let's take a look at Key. I missed that one earlier, and then we'll look at CCL, and then we'll wrap it up there. Those financials have been just red hot.
It's a good time to be long financials, and I think a lot of people aren't paying attention to it. I think it's the everybody fights the last war idea. You go back to 2008, everybody goes, oh my gosh, the banks, they're terrible. And so therefore, like if you talk to any investor or even big investors, people who should know better, like they don't want to buy the banks. Everybody's afraid to buy the banks. Retails more than anybody hate buying bank stocks. And really it's just another area that makes money, especially in an environment where the yield curve is steepening. So the yield curve is, yes, it's going to go through ebbs and flows. It's not going to be perfectly smooth, but it is steepening, which creates money for the banks. So if you're a bank, you loan from the short end of the curve. And then if you're a normal person, like you're getting a mortgage or something, you loan from the long end of the curve. So the bank's loaning at the short end of the curve. And as long as the curve is inverted the right direction, basically saying they're going to get a 4%, let's say they get a 4% yield, and then the person paying on the loan is paying back at 5%, the banks are making money. And so as time is moving on and the Fed is lowering rates, that's only going to continue to move the right direction for them. And then they're going to continue to make more money. So the banks, long story short, banks look good.
You got any levels on Key?
On Key, let's take a look. So if we're looking at really the first level, and I also like to look at the volume by price. So if we look at the volume by price, I gotta get to candles. So if we look at the volume by price, wow, there really isn't much up at the moment.
Looks pretty black and white up above that 20 level, right?
Yeah, so it looks pretty good at the moment. We move it back so we get the rest of it up there, but really it looks good. Clear skies ahead. Really getting over 2088 is going to be the key here. All pun intended. But if we get above 2088, that's definitely a move at least to 2310. And then the next move is it's basically clear skies after 23. So I think that thing could absolutely take off and move up to the old highs here around 2765 and continue higher. I think it's a good idea to be long it if you're already long, or just if you're looking for a way to get into that position, just wait for it to close above 2026 and get long it.
I like it. Yeah. I mean, really just at that level right now. Well, it's kind of getting rejected a little bit, but that's kind of normal coming in at this. Let's take a look at CCL. This one's from Wavy, and then we'll call it a day.
CCL. All right. I am excited about these. So, full disclosure, I always tell people I have these boring stocks in my retirement account, and this is one of them that we bought recently, just this year. And really just kind of seeing it take off has been kind of surreal. It's one of those things that I wouldn't have expected, but it's really moving nicely. And the breakout point that it came from was a very clear level to buy. And that's the reason why it went into our portfolio, which is 1990. Very clear level to buy against, very clear level to trade against, and who knows where that ends up. But CCL, looking at another one real fast that's interesting is Jets.
Yeah, a lot of these travel and leisure stocks really working.
I couldn't believe, literally when I was talking about it, I said, I can't believe I'm buying Jets, but I'm buying Jets.
Right, yeah. You look at something like United Airlines, UAL, that thing's just been insane. It spent most of its time in a 50% drawdown. All of a sudden, it's back.
Yeah, and that's a wild move, and it's United, which is terrible if you've ever flown it. It's just hilarious.
And they're all terrible.
Well, Delta's also on there. That's like I got stuck in LaGuardia for days, and literally it was 8 days in LaGuardia Airport, and they wouldn't put me in a hotel.
8 days?
And I was young, so I had to
They wasted a week of your life?
Yes, I didn't want to call. I was out of money. I was 18, so I'm out of money. I have nothing.
Okay.
I'm basically like, I don't know what to do about this whole situation. I finally call my grandmother one day and I'm like, Grandma, they're like, they won't even give me a hotel. I'm losing my mind. She's like, why didn't you call me like 5 days ago? She's like, I know, because I would get paid for the tours. Like they were going to pay me back and then I could have paid her, but I was being stubborn. I thought they'd put me on a plane at some point. So I'll always hate Delta for that.
Yeah, the airline's just out of nowhere. Above the pre-COVID highs too, like finally making progress.
Yeah. It's interesting. I love seeing this the Jets ETF actually start to make some moves. It hasn't made a move in so long. it was so surprising that I had to update people. And the way I said it was, I can't believe I'm buying the Jets ETF, but we're buying it. Just it sounds ridiculous. It's just been so long. But really, here's where it should start to consolidate a little bit more. If it does, if and it also that's not a ton of resistance either, so it could just break right above that and move back to the old highs that we haven't seen since COVID. That'd be crazy.
Well, hey, we got one last minute request coming in for SMH, and I think it was the most important chart coming into this week, so I think it's worth a shot.
Yes, I'm down. Let's do it. So those are closing levels I probably had listed there. Okay, so here's SMH. Semiconductors. I mean, for me, I'm always looking at the semis. I'm sure you are too, Patrick. Just looking at the semis, trying to understand, what the general market direction is, risk on, risk off environments. But if I'm just looking at SMH itself, I mean, it's making a really nice pennant here. And that's a Bollinger Band squeeze too. So as it's squeezing, that breakout's gonna be pretty massive if it happens.
Jason, you can't have a party without the chips. So if we're gonna get this year-end rally I keep hearing about, what do you think?
Can't have a party without the chips. Yeah, you're right. So 261, 88. So 262 basically. Get a close above there, buy it. I love it. I love that trade.
261.8, that's a fib number too. Love it.
There we go. To me, we get above that level, clear skies. And here's a very interesting way of looking at it. We get above that level, clear skies ahead. If we get below, let's say 2033, 2032, 233. If we get below that level, then probably there's a headwind ahead.
Yeah.
So I would say very clear levels here to just trade against. Understand if we're below that, it's probably a bad trade. Above that, I want to be buying above 261. So I like it. I'm glad this chart was brought up. It's really cool to bring that to my attention. So I appreciate it.
I think NVIDIA is like 22% of this thing. So it's kind of live by NVIDIA, die by NVIDIA.
Yes. So real fast. Let's take a look at that one. So if that sector is going to go anywhere and NVIDIA is holding up, which it is.
And hey, you could have drawn that pennant on this one too, and it looks like this one's resolved.
Yes. So the same thing, it's definitely resolved higher already. So same pennant pattern, but it resolved higher. I'm pretty sure, I don't know, nobody wants to say anything for sure in trading, but I'm pretty sure that SMH is going to follow, probably higher.
Going out on a limb.
Hey, I'm a trader. I always got to have some sort of crazy view.
Well, listen, I got to ask you, any charts stand out to you?
Today, SMH. SMH was the best one. I hate to pick the last one, but
no, it's really the most important,
It's the most important one. Also coffee. I'm partial to coffee.
Yeah.
I'm biased to the commodities that have these major outlier trends because really, like as traders, like how do we really make money? And the truth is, if you're a trader in a swing or position trading space, you understand how we make money is to be in these major outlier moves. Coffee is having one of those outlier moves, so I like that somebody brought that up today.
I'll go with a different one. I like Unity above the 25. I like that.
Unity is really nice too.
Yeah. And if we're going with small caps, if we're going with the trashier names, why not, right?
Yeah. Don't forget base and IWC. Oh, there's a lot.
Right.
There's a lot of good ones today. This was a fun one. So thank you guys for all the good ideas. This is a lot of fun. And Patrick, thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure, Jason. Always a pleasure. Thank you guys so much for watching. If we didn't get to your idea, just shoot us an email at questions@stockmarketmedia.com and we will get to it on Monday. Thank you guys so much.